Hi guys, and welcome back here to the DevRam. Today we're going to be carrying on our series, and what we did in the last episode is that we created this interaction here. You can't see anything right now, but it's actually adding and removing from the character. So what we need to work today is on the UI. So how can we actually make the UI looks cool, and how we're going to actually interact with this, right? So the first thing we're going to do here is close everything, and let's just start to work on the widget. So let's go back here to the dialog session. Let's create here a folder called widget, right? Let's open up here. And what I would like to do is create our first widget here. So we're gonna go back to the user widget. Let's create here a widget blueprint. Make sure you select the user, called WBP main NPC dialog, right? Now this is gonna need a canvas. All right, so we're gonna add here a canvas, add the canvas. Perfect. Now we need to identify how would you like this UI to work. So in games like, for example, Skyrim, or anyway, we have something here on the corner, right? Very subtle. And then you have option, the question, and then you're gonna have like option 1, 2, and then 3. So I know for a fact that we need a box with a question on the top. So let's go back to this and let's create here another user interface called WBP question, right? Question. So the question is going to be a border, right? So let's add a border. Perfect. Now this border, let's make it nice. Let's make it like a black color, and let's pure black, and let's add some opacity or something, like a very subtle opacity. And now we need to add vertical box. Okay. Then we need to add, let's say, a text, which is going to be the question itself. Remember, the question is always on the middle. We just want to leave it auto, just fine in the middle as well. So this is going to be, can you help me with this? Something like that. Sorry, can. Now we're just going to make sure that the font is 50. I think that sounds good, but I am gonna wrap this with a scale box just to prevent any issues from happening. So we can leave it like auto, we can stretch, but now if I keep adding like a huge text, you know, things are scaling, which is fine. And that's okay. And now we got this stuff, perfect. Now we need another vertical box because we with scrollable, probably not, but we need a vertical box. So we're gonna add a vertical box, and that vertical box is gonna be the options perfectly. Make sure it is a variable because we will need to play with this. We're gonna fill it up, and we're just gonna add a padding top like 10. Now let's design the option. Let's add 20, by the way. So how can we design this option effectively? So eventually we probably want to use some kind of controllers to do this. So let's just use as a button, right? A button with text inside. So this is going to be option. Now the text, I want to be able to align everything. I mean, it can be here actually. I kind of like it. I don't mind it. Let's add a bigger font. Now we change this content to like a yes or something, and then we can just duplicate that and have like a no, as you can probably tell, right? But for now, let's just focus on this, right? And that's very like what we need. Fill it up. Now this is bad, perfectly. And now we're gonna compile and save. Now before we start to actually load the data, I want to make sure this is aligned properly where it needs to be, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add a border, right there, and this is gonna be the dialog slot or something like that. Now the dialog, we need to load the WBP question. Sorry, WBP question. We're gonna add it here, right? Now you're probably gonna notice this is a little bit weird out, but that's okay. We just need to make sure that things are nice. Now for the dialog slot, I don't care about having this bush color, so I can set up the alpha back to 0. Now the dialog is basically how do you like to set this thing up, so we can actually make it like that. I don't want to make things too big on screen. So right now it's quite massive, and I think when you play it's not going to be great. So let's just anchor this first. 0, 0. No, that's fine. 0, 1 or 0, 1 perfectly. Now I'm just gonna align this a little bit like that, just so it's not super at the bottom, you know. So we have the question. Now let's try to increase a little bit of the size of this. And that's it. This title is huge, so I think we can make the size like 40 or something. Let's see how this looks better, but you know, it's one of those things that because we don't have a nice UI yet, it looks not great. But don't worry about this for now. Let's just focus on if we can actually spawn this. Nice. Now that we have this information, let's open up the BPC dialog interaction. Nice. Now we have the dialog interaction. So remember that we have this when we press play. So now let's just create here a custom event called API open dialog interaction. This is going to be running on the client only, all right? Because the client, remember guys, client is the only one that has widgets. Server does not render the widgets, and that's why we need to do this. Now, because we're doing this, we can create a widget. Sorry, create widget. We need to find this widget. We only have this NPC dialog here, and then we can add to the viewport, right? To the viewport perfectly. Now we're gonna create here another one custom event called API remove from remove or close dialog, something like that. And then this is gonna be basically, first we need to set up this as a variable called dialog widget. Hold control, hold this here, plug this that, do it right here. Now the Z order, I am not sure. I'm just gonna promote this to a variable main widget Z order. This will depend what kind of game you're building, and if you already have widgets on the screen, that may be a problem. So you may have to play around this value if it's interacting with your screen. The higher you go, it goes on front of everything. So maybe if you want to be safe, you can put like 100, but that's up to you. Now I'm gonna get the dialog, and I'm gonna remove from parent, so which means it's gonna be deleted. And once again, this runs on the client only, reliable. Make sure this. So let's just give a nice name. Remove the widget, and in here we're just gonna call this add the widget. And just to keep things nice and consistent, let's just add the green color and the red color so everything's nice. Okay, now we have this stuff. We can call this API open dialog interaction, this one. So now let's have a look. So when I go back here and I press E, it shows up, which is exactly what we're looking for. And now if I leave the range, you probably notice that the UI is still there. And if I keep opening up, it keeps adding new UIs. This is a problem, right? So what we're gonna do is that when the actor leaves the range, we're just gonna close this. Perfect. Now, let's see. Get out of the range. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, because we have to deal with players, and players sometimes they're not super bright. They can break your game. They keep pressing E. So we need to find a way to stop adding widgets on the screen. So the easiest way to do that is just that we're going to create widget, interaction or something like that. Make sure this E is set up to true. Otherwise, E set up to false. Okay. And then all you got to do here, just create a branch that if is not true, so not Boolean, we don't want to open this. I would say, in fact, that you can even close the widget, to be honest. Yeah, to be honest, we can call that. You can close the widget, you know. Because then what you do is that you come here, press E, and you open and close, open and close, open and close. Perfect. Now, a couple of issues. Notice that I can't use my mouse now. Like, I can't select the options, right? We are going to solve this on the next lesson. So bear with me. And in the next one, we are going to solve this problem. I just want you guys to get to exactly this point, because as you can see, super easy to add this kind of stuff in Unreal. Unreal make it so nice to work with, but we just have to set up a couple of quirks to make sure it works properly. So let's just do that on the next episode. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I see you in the next one.